Okay, so I think the beeps have stopped. So a very, very warm welcome to everyone who's joined us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the line today. As I said, we did have rather a lot of people sign up for today's event, which is brilliant. It just shows the enthusiasm and the interest in the Innovation Playbook, which is what we're launching today. We've got people on the call today who've been involved in its creation, and we will hear from some of them later as well. Today's event, the plan for today is in the mural, the link of which I shared in the chat. So let me just share that again for those of you who've recently joined. If you can't access the mural, it's not the end of the world. But what we're going to be doing today, we're going to start with a little bit of a journey so far. I'm going to tell you the journey, the collective journey that we've been on to get to the point of launching the Inclusive Innovation Playbook. We're going to share some insights. So today's not about me talking, it's about hearing from other people on the call, and it's an opportunity to network as well. I'm going to tell you a little bit about a masterclass series we will be running in June and July, and then we'll spend the final bit of today doing a bit of an exercise, a quiet writing exercise to give us some food for thought, and then we'll go into smaller breakouts. There's too many people on the call today to have a meaningful collective conversation, and part of the journey of inclusive innovation is the serendipitous meetings of other people who share a common interest in the topic. So we'll go into smaller breakouts, and it'll be a chance to meet each other in smaller groups. So I will start by giving you a little bit of a potted history. If I can get a thumbs up, actually, does that sound okay to people? If you want to put your videos on, that would be nice. If you don't feel comfortable or you're not able to, that's fine too. Thumbs up if that's a good plan. Okay, I can see some thumbs up, so brilliant. Thank you, everyone. So a little bit of a history. So to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm Marissa Ellis. I'm the founder of an organization called Diversely, and I've spent most of my career in the tech sector, a good couple of decades. I typically had head of product roles. So I was responsible for a range of different digital solutions, from transaction monitoring in the financial crime space to education to enterprise communications. And I had a wonderful career. And one day I was pregnant with my first child, and I got announced, called into my boss's room, and I was told that I was actually being made redundant. And it wasn't just me, it was my whole team. So I kind of left the office that day feeling somewhat confused. I was suffering from morning sickness. I didn't really know, whether I was coming or going. And it was at that moment that my kind of whole world changed. So I'd had this very, very optimistic, successful career, and then suddenly I didn't have a job anymore, and I didn't really feel I could apply for a job because I was about to have this baby. I had no idea how that was going to change my life. And the journey that I went on after that period was really my sort of introduction to maybe this meritocracy that I thought we were living in maybe didn't quite exist. Now, this wasn't the first time I was exposed to systemic injustice. I grew up in apartheid South Africa, so I was very, very aware of the injustice in the world. And my family emigrated because they wanted us to live in a more sort of just and fair place. But actually, when you look at things, just because in the UK, the rules that were in place in South African apartheid times were no longer in place in the UK, that doesn't mean that racism doesn't exist. And I think we all know that it does exist, and we all need to be proactively working together to try and change some of the historic injustices that sit in the world. And the reason I share these stories is that once I'd kind of emerged from this foggy craziness of trying to figure out how on earth to juggle family life and my new life as a mother, and I found the headspace to be able to make that navigate that place. I became an independent consultant, and I had great success in terms of strategy work, product innovation, organizational design, leadership development. But I realized that actually the business world as we know it isn't right. It's broken. There's certain things, there's certain historic assumptions around how business should work that actually don't fit. They don't work for everyone fundamentally. So I started Diversely, and that was about 4 years ago. And Diversely essentially exists to try and make the world a more inclusive place. And the bulk of the work that we do is inclusive leadership development. If organizations want to become more diverse and inclusive, they've got to develop inclusive leaders. We do strategy. So that's my kind of history as a consultant. So we do a lot of diversity and inclusion strategy work. And we also run inclusive workshops to get everyone involved in talking about diversity and inclusion. And we've had great success over the last 4 years. It's been a wonderful journey for me. But what I realized is that the conversations were happening with HR people, or people were thinking about diversity and inclusion as a sort of just a people piece. And when I think back to my days as a product person, those two worlds weren't really colliding. They were very, very separate. So the Inclusive Innovation Playbook, which is what we're here to talk about today, is the realization that when we're talking about diversity and inclusion, it's not just, it's obviously about people, it's all about people, but we've got to be thinking about people in terms of the products and services that we create as well. And we want to bring product managers, designers, researchers, UX people into these diversity and inclusion conversations so that we can systematically be creating products that essentially work for more people more of the time. So that's the kind of history in terms of what made me think, wow, there's a real gap here and we need to do something. My general philosophy is one of collaboration, and I reached out to see, who would be interested in being part of such an endeavor. And there are people on the call today who we'll hear from later who said yes. There are many people who aren't on the call today who also said yes. And collectively, we've produced the first version of which is now the Inclusive Innovation Playbook. And the philosophy is one of collaboration. I believe we're stronger together. It's also one of continuous involvement. I don't think what we've produced is the end goal. I think it's the beginning. I want to encourage feedback and case studies and stories, and to make it more action orientated and more practical and more ultimately useful. And as the industry matures, I see the playbook maturing as well. So I think I'll probably stop talking now because I've spoken plenty, but I'll happily answer any questions that anyone's got. But I also invite people who have been part of the collaboration to share their experiences of being part of this, any insights that you think, wow, the playbook, either I contributed this insight and this is something I wish everyone really understood, or things that you've learned from the playbook. So I'll just generally open the floor up to hear from a few people, whoever wants to speak. I'm not, there's no pressure here at all. If you don't want to speak, that's fine. If you do want to speak, please go ahead. So if anyone would like to share, please go ahead. And the offer's open to anyone who's read the playbook as well. If you haven't been involved in the journey so far, but you've read the playbook and there was something there for you, please join in. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go for it.
No problem. I was just like trying to understand if I was muted or not. A classic on these online stuff nowadays.
Of course.
So the first thing I'd like to say 2 or 3 words. First of all, congratulations to you, Marisa. I think this is a project that can really help us to do some changes. And what I want to share was I was excited to participate and I did like it. And but what I want to share most of it is that this is a learning process for me. And even just going through the playbook, reading, thinking, opening probably some doors in my mind that were not open because I was not aware of them. I think this is something that can help us a lot in our work, but personally also how we see the world. So I did like the model of collaboration. I felt that this was an open group that could openly say what they thought, and I appreciate that because I do like that freedom of opinion, even when we are wrong. And for that, I think this is, as you said, a very important starting point. We try to also share this event with more people because I think as large we can get this group to collaborate and give feedback to you, Marisa, better the playbook will be, better, more people we can reach. So at the end, what I want to say is thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Do you want to maybe just tell everyone where you're from, just to give people a bit of context as well?
very quick. So I'm Margarida. I work in Itachi Vantara. I'm part of the product design team. I participate on this program with Marie and Felipe, who are also in this call. We came here, we got here through an invite came from our diversity and inclusion person from the company that reached out to us and say, maybe you could help here. And I was super happy, not only to be invited, but also to participate and have the opportunity to learn with all of you guys.
Amazing, thank you. And thank you for sharing that level of vulnerability, because we are all on a journey. And even as a people who know a lot, there's still so much more to learn, and we need to come to this with that level of humility, because that's how we will, progress together. And it's not, in many ways, diversity and inclusion is just like any other strategic business initiative, and you can't just expect volunteers to do it on the sideline, which is quite often the case. You've got to give it budget, you've got to give it priority, you need a decent strategy. But there's also an advocacy piece, and there's also a personal. I liked you're talking about doors opening in your mind, because there is something around, we all have to be able to look inward before we can look outward, and that's so important. So thank you for sharing. Would anyone else like to add anything? Oh, sorry, I think
there was a voice.
There was a voice, yeah.
Otherwise,
that may have been me logging in again, and it was saying it's recording. Sorry.
Oh, I see. Okay, not to worry. Thank you.
Yeah, otherwise I would like to share something. Hi, I'm Christoph. I have a background in user experience design, and I'm freelancing in education on DEI topics. And recently I had a conversation with a junior developer who said, like, I think it's important, but I'm super annoyed by this whole inclusivity, accessibility topic. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about this. And then he described that in his team, these things are constantly changing. They're getting in there late in the process. And he had basically the same thing of accessibility as an add-on, because in his work, it felt like that. It felt like an afterthought that he then had to cram into whatever ticket he was doing right now. And I told him, well, that sounds so after I explained to him why this is necessary, he's agreed. And I was like, it doesn't sound like you're against accessibility. It sounds like you have a problem in how this shows up in your workflow. And this is why I think the playbook is so important, because there are techniques and frameworks in there that you can integrate into your workflow. And I think we need to get to a place where these things are just commonplace in software development, because otherwise it will always feel tacked on. It will always annoy the developers. It will always be kind of the strange body that is not really welcome. And I think having a playbook with some practical advice in there, how to make it a standard part of just product, I think is great and important to actually make inclusive design and inclusive products happening.
Amazing. Thank you, Christoph. And thank you for all of your contributions as well. Christoph's been a great source of inspiration and challenge as well. And I'm certain the playbook is better as a result of his contribution. So thank you. And I think there's an important point in there around building it in, because that's essentially what we're trying. We should be getting this to be just standard practice. So I was talking at an event recently. It was an EMEA symposium in payments, and the room was filled with people, and I asked people to put their hand up if their organization offered products or services, digital products or services, and I'd say 95% of the people put their hands up. And I said, and do you have product or service managers responsible for these products and services that you're creating? Keep your hand up if that's the case. And everyone kept their hand up. And I said, well, do you have anyone that's responsible for making sure those products and services are inclusive? So, for example, Google has a product inclusion manager, and Lenovo has a product diversity office. And everyone, we're talking, these are, the payments world is big organizations, global organizations. The hands just came down. And I think, it was a very, very powerful visual kind of image of the state of where we are as an industry. You know, we're not yet at the point where we're giving true accountability and responsibility, you know, for some of the things that ultimately need to happen. And I think your organizational structure and responsibilities tells you a lot about your priorities. And we're starting to evolve. So diversity and inclusion roles on LinkedIn, I think in the last 5 years have risen by something like 67%. So there is a shift, but we need to see that shift in the product space as well. And I think the world is filled with, there are so many complicated problems out there. I mean, the acceleration of the use of AI, the potential risks associated with that, global warming, inequity all around the world. There are some really big problems. And I guess one of the messages I'm sending with the playbook is, let's just get the easy stuff right, because there are so many things we can be doing that actually, it's just, you can do it this way or this way, and this way is going to be more inclusive. Do it this way. Let's get the easy stuff right collectively, and then we can get our heads together and tackle some of the, let's not wait, but like if we, you know, how are we going to solve these big problems if we don't even get some of the easy things right? So anyone else who'd like to build upon the discussion so far?
I think just to like what you just mentioned about the little things and the little bits and starting those, and that low-hanging fruit is super important to do, and then it also gets everyone else thinking a little bit more about those things, and then it's just a snowball effect, right? Exactly. So it's tackling that low-hanging fruit, tackling those small things, just getting involved and being a part of it, and spreading it, and just hopefully watching it grow naturally. So yeah, exactly.
And I think there is something about that sort of personal change, because sometimes it's the little things in terms of human behavior. So if we want to create inclusive products, we need inclusive product teams. We need diversity in those teams. And if we have a blame culture in that team, we're not going to get, you know, you may have a really diverse team, but you're not going to get the ideas because people aren't going to want to share those ideas. So sometimes it's the really small tweaks in behavior that people aren't even aware that they're doing. They're not aware of the deeper consequences. And sometimes it's a small tweak in a retrospective where you just ask an additional question. How do you think that might work for I don't know, people who have got a partner of the same sex? How do you think that would work for them? Just a really simple question. Oh, I haven't thought of that. Maybe we need to, you know, and then it you know, it sparks changes. So I do think there is, the little things can make a big difference. Any other things that anyone who's either been involved or hasn't been involved would like to add?
May I add a comment, or can you hear me okay?
Yeah, of course.
I'm really glad to see this happening. Thank you for putting on this meeting today. In my time working, I've gone through different kinds of organizations, and I've seen different levels of commitment. And I have started to have a issue around large organizations purporting that they're doing a lot for DEI. And then you get in and you find it to be exactly as you're saying. There's this belief that they're doing something because they say it, but then they're not making actionable steps to accomplish it, or they don't have an internal team, or the team's kind of just a placeholder, or isn't really given the connection or the resources that they need. And then you see internal talent, such as when I joined the last organization I was with, kind of perplexed on the dissonance between what's said and then what's done. And then you observe the small things that you identify could be changed, but you also know as a numerical or a power majority in the context that you can't say anything. It's almost this you could get retaliation, so you keep quiet, but then that's the problem that you're identifying, where you have change agents that are already in place, but they know if it's not an inclusive environment, they can't even contribute or speak up to help change it. So I would love to see organizations become aware of this from the top, because I think they have these biases where they don't even realize they're doing these things and preventing a lot of the change from taking place from internal people who already have knowledge or expertise in place. And then some of those people just decide, as myself, to move on to a different organization because there's a level of values and principles misalignment, because I'm about execution, or many, specifically younger people, are kind of perplexed at what's said and what's not done. So then I think they see a lot of attrition rates, and it impacts the brand equity of the organizations too. And then they're kind of, it's like this unending cycle where they're like, why can't we attract this talent? And they don't realize that they're in their own way, or the talent gets in and then they quickly leave after they've gotten kind of what they need, because they realize the whole time that they're just there for specific individual aims or agendas that they have, because they don't want to stay with them long term, because it's not a healthy working culture. So I really, really love this initiative.
Thank you so much. So many great points there. And ultimately, you're right. It comes, so much of this is about culture, and if the culture's not right, people will leave, and quite often people at the top don't see it. They don't see it, and that's what we need to change. We need. Well, there's something else, which is that all of this needs to be authentic. That this isn't about lip service. This is about authentic change, and it's difficult, because some of the behaviors, I mean, we cover some of this in our leadership training, but some of the behaviors that are required for inclusive leadership go just so against some of your traditional leadership kind of styles and needs, which is admitting that you're wrong. I mean, that's, in some contexts that is incredibly difficult to do. Anyway, I won't digress into inclusive leadership, which is something I could easily do. But yeah, thank you for sharing. Really, really great points. Cliff, you had your hand up, but was your point being covered, or did you want to say something?
Well, no, I just wanted to add, firstly, thank you for creating this space and for creating the playbook and allowing me to take part of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add on the narrow sounds like a bad word, but like the specific focus and the nature of the playbook, I think is so great. And I can't wait to work on more such projects, because diversity and inclusion is so close to the heart for everyone, because we all have identity and a positionality in the world, that it's very easy when we talk about diversity and inclusion issues at work for the conversation to completely spiral out of control. And this playbook is a marvelous tool to kind of wrangle the conversation and to saying, okay, but we don't have to change the world and we don't have to be a perfect organization, but here's a nice step-by-step guide on how we can implement really practical things that will make a difference, and kind of just because I suppose I should be less on social media. I see so many destructive conversations around people throwing all kinds of words around about being woke and this, and it doesn't help anyone. We just keep fighting and we don't do anything. And I think this tool is, well, this playbook is an amazing tool to kind of combat that spiral that oftentimes happen when we talk about these things. So thank you, Marissa.
Thank you, Cliff, and thank you so much for your contributions. And I'm sure there'll be more to come as well. Cliff's, again, the playbook is better for having Cliff being a part of it. So, and Danielle has just had to leave the call as well, but she is also made some fantastic additions to it as well. So, oh, another person joining. Okay, so I guess some more thanks to people who have spoken, to people who that's prompted some thoughts for. I think if you haven't yet seen the playbook, I think it's certainly worth checking out. I won't sort of take you through it in detail today. I mean, I think the general the high level model is in the mural. So if you want to have a look at that, you can see that essentially what we talk about in the playbook are these three pillars. So it's inclusive people, are kind of fundamental. If you don't have inclusive and diverse teams, you're going to have knowledge gaps. You need to have inclusive practices. If you don't have inclusive practices, you are systematically going to be excluding people. If you're not systematically including them, then you're going to be excluding people. And the result of all of this is inclusive products and services. And if you don't have inclusive products and services, you're going to be underserving your customers. You're missing opportunities. So that's the pillar. We can help organizations do a bit of a maturity assessment based on this model. The model kind of runs through the playbook, and there are various practical actions and pages that relate to various elements in here. And this all follows a piece more around helping open those doors around understanding diversity, understanding different needs, which is part of that education piece. So the playbook provides an education, but also then a journey forward and some actions that you can take. And the playbook, as I say, I hope it will continue to evolve. I'd like to create a bit of a community of practice around it. I think we'll have another call in about a month. So during the month of May, we're going to have the comments freely open in the playbook, so people can add comments and we can evolve it, and we'll respond to all of the comments and update it. If you've got any suggestions, there's in the mural, there's on the right hand side, there's some blue stickies. If you've got resources you think we should be adding, if you'd like to get involved, if you want to sponsor the playbook, we now that we've launched it, we can see how much appetite there is for this. We realized actually we're going to need to get some sorts of funding to be able to keep marketing it and pushing it and creating a bit more of a community that's not just so far it's been done on kind of a huge amount of my time, but also great efforts from various other people involved. And if we can try and supplement that, then I think we'll be able to push this out more and ultimately create a bigger impact. So any suggestions at all, please share them. During the month of May, we're going to be open for comments. We'll set up another session in sort of the early June timeframe to reconvene, and it will be more of a, what have we learned in the last month? Let's see what the suggestions are and people's experiences of the playbook. The playbook's not enough. Whilst it helps you build your knowledge, it contains information, and information is not enough to change organizations. To change organizations, you need to turn that information into knowledge. You need to turn that into understanding. You need commitment. You need to start embedding it into the way that you operate, and you need accountability. You need to set goals that you can then work towards, and you need collaborators within your organization, to make the change. I don't think one person can suddenly change everything without the support of others. It's a collaborative piece. So what we're going to be offering in June and July are a series of masterclass workshops. So we're heavily reducing them because we want to essentially make it a little bit of a no-brainer for organizations or individuals who are really genuinely keen to progress on this journey. They're going to be 3 sessions, very, very small groups, so nowhere near as many people as available on this call. And we'll be focusing in on the people, the practices, and the product. And it will be a really safe space to both explore your own diversity and inclusion journey, open up some doors in your mind. I really like that, and learn about some of the insights in the playbook, but think about how you can apply them in your own organization, and do that in a supportive environment where you can get direct feedback, where you can think about, well, this is what it says, but how does this going to work in the context of my world, in my organization? And it will give you the accountability to keep pushing. Oh, it's a great idea, but I haven't yet committed to do anything. Well, join the master classes, and there'll be the momentum of the group. We'll form accountability buddies within the group, and it will be I'm sure it will be a joyous experience based on the inclusive leadership workshops that we've run in the past. I don't know if there's anyone, I know people who've been on our workshops in the past signed up. I'm not sure if there's anyone on the call today I can't actually see all participants because there's too many participants for me to see the entire screen. But anyway, I think it's going to be a great opportunity, and I really do encourage you to apply. The discount's running out on the 15th of May though, so if it's something that you think might work for you, then do it quickly. Okay, so that's the masterclass series. I'm really looking forward to starting that. What I'd like to do for the rest of today's session is give you, as I said, there are too many people on the call for us all to interact with each other. So I'd like to give us an opportunity to break into smaller groups. But before we do that, I thought I'd give us some time to do a bit of quiet contemplation, which then gives us some food for thought when we do break out into smaller groups. So if we head off to the mural, and I'll share the link again in the chat. If we head over to the white post-it notes, the yellow post-it notes, there are 4 questions. So I'm going to stop talking for about, say, 4 or 5 minutes and just give you a chance to think about the topic of inclusive innovation, the topic of the playbook, and think about, why do you care? Why should your organization care? What makes it so hard? Why haven't we already cracked it? And is there anything that you've seen that's worked well? Okay, so if anyone's got any questions on that, just shout. Otherwise, I'm going to stop talking so that I don't distract you. And we'll just give you a few moments just to gather your thoughts, and then we'll go into breakout rooms just to have a smaller discussion. Okay, thumbs up if everyone's happy with those instructions. You're able to access the mural. Yeah. Great. Okay, I will stop talking for a few minutes then. Okay, we'll just do 1 more minute or so, and then we will break out into smaller groups. Okay, so thank you everyone for sharing. What we'll do now is we'll go into smaller groups, as I say, so we can just have a slightly more meaningful conversation. There's no real agenda here. My goal here is to encourage you to meet other people who might share a similar interest to you, and for you to learn something and share something. So if use the post-it notes as a prompt, and share your insights, share your experiences, let the conversation flow in whichever way it feels right to do so. So we'll go into breakouts for I think probably about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll come back to the main room and we'll finish today's session. Okay, brilliant. Any questions? Anyone? No, we're all good. Lovely. Okay, perfect. And I've done the breakout rooms randomly, so I hope you like your new friends. It's not my choosing. Okay, the people who are still in the main room, are you able to join the breakouts? I think you might need to click on the join button. Oh, I bring the recording with me. I don't mean to do
No,
that. Sorry.
I'm not hearing anything from anybody else in this breakout room, so I'm
Oh, is everyone
not
on?
sure, yeah, if people are actually active in the call.
Ah, interesting.
So yeah.
Ah, so you've had some quiet contemplation then.
Yeah.
What have you been contemplating? Well, I'm glad I joined you then.
Yes, I'm glad you joined me as well. Oh, hello.
Hi, sorry, my audio was not working. I was talking and I thought you could hear me.
Oh, perfect.
Hi, how are you?
How's it going?
Hello.
Hello.
Brilliant. Maybe that might be the same problem that the other people are having, but
When I changed from the main room to this room and my headphones disconnected,
Oh, really?
okay.
yeah. So I was
Ah.
talking and I thought
Yeah.
you could hear me, but then I realized it was not working, so I disconnected.
Well, we can hear you now. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm in London now.
In London.
Yeah.
Nice. What about you, Sarah? Where are you?
I'm in Kent.
In Kent. Even further. I'm in Bristol, so even further away. So yeah. So what are your reflections then? I don't want to.
Yeah,
what prompted you to join?
I signed up to have a look at the playbook a few days ago and started to explore it. And then I was talking to some colleagues about it and sharing it with them. And then I saw that you had this session, so I thought, oh well, I'll join the session because then I might be able to learn a bit more about it all and how we might, start to put some of it into practice. And then there might be some nuggets that I can take back to my colleagues as well. So
what's your organization? What's your role?
I work for Macmillan Cancer Support.
Oh, okay.
And my role is in insight and performance. So sharing insight with the wider part of the wider organization who are developing products and services and trying to make sure that, everything that we do meets the needs of everybody.
Yeah, especially in exactly.
Yeah.
We had on the subject of charities, we had Shelter participate in the review sort of process for the playbook, which was really nice. So we had a real range with, like we mentioned, Hitachi were involved and Booking.com, who again very, very different, and Shelter's probably the one most like. Although I think the fundamentals.
One of the questions that I had is, do you see this just for use for digital products and services? Because I think that's kind of what I've heard you talk about, or do you see it having a wider application than that?
Well, it does have a wider application, but what I've learned as a product person is that you're better off to be specific and focused and then let it grow rather than be too big and then it doesn't really resonate enough for anyone. So I think there's a huge amount in here that is relevant irrespective of whether your product is digital or not.
Yeah.
And I think there's also lessons that can be learned from the physical world that then influence the digital world, and vice versa actually. But yeah. So, but that's the the rationale is let's focus in on the digital
you got to
world.
start somewhere, right? You got
and
yeah.
Otherwise it's it's just my I've been in the product world for too long.
No, that makes sense, because when I looked at the frameworks, my view was that we could that we could absolutely apply those to non-digital products as well, and services. A lot of them were just kind of I thought were just good prompts to get people thinking about different considerations, and that would apply just as well to.
Yeah, definitely. And especially some of the visual frameworks, I mean, they're not particularly, especially like the hierarchy of needs. It's very appropriate at all stages. So my message is not don't use it for non-digital products at all. I'm just explaining the rationale as to why why we took that route. But yeah, I mean, I'd be really interested to see how it can be helpful to you and how it evolves. And I'd love to continue to hear stories, especially things that have gone well and really resonated, or things where, oh, we didn't really understand that, or that wasn't clear enough, or if we enhanced it in this way, this would make it better, those kinds of things. To make it really practical. That kind of feedback's really helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What about you, Maker? What's your background? What brings you here today?
I'm a software engineer, and I used to work for ThoughtWorks.
Oh, nice.
So I have in my networking LinkedIn people like Chris and other people like to focus on equitable tech. So I was also part of the equitable tech group when I was at ThoughtWorks.
Okay, very nice.
I work for startups here in the UK, and it's a completely different world when you want to talk about diversity, inclusion, and because these are small organizations that are trying to find their way through the market, and they mainly focus on trying to be successful, which is understandable, but I'm trying to find a way to make it so we could include these different aspects in the development of the product, right? So that's why I was interested in the playbook.
Yeah, absolutely.
As Chris was saying, for many of us developers, sometimes it becomes more of a burden to figure out how to do it. And I am an advocate of trying to find simple processes that can be followed without trying to rediscover, without trying to be overly elaborated. Because we might want to do many things, but we need simple 2-3 recipes that will help us move to the next level. And it's difficult when you are small. It's easier when you have more people who are interested in the subject, right? So yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm just curious how I could use the tool in my everyday work.
Yeah, and that's exactly the sort of people we want to be here, because I think if you go away and explore that, we can continue the conversation and we can try and make it as relevant as possible. And that's why in the playbook itself, we've got, we start with the business case, because we know that this isn't just for some people it's a no-brainer, but for many it's people want to do it, but the business machine, even sort of a charitable machine, doesn't operate in that way, and we need to find ways to make it part of the way that the return on investment, if you like, makes sense. And there's a pretty compelling story in the playbook on that front. But I hope that we can make it more compelling as more and more organizations start having those conversations, and we can start learning from those, and then we can hopefully get more kind of quotes from people and what's worked and what hasn't worked, and that can then help others to do something along those lines. I do think there's a lot about awareness. I think if the developers don't know, then you don't do things. Sometimes you can take 2 paths, and if you don't know the other path exists, then you just don't take it. And there's also something about what Chris said earlier about this kind of idea of shifting left. So the earlier you do things, that the more embedded it becomes, and the idea of co-creation. And I think even product companies, software startups who are small and resource constrained, they're still very, very much aware we're trying to find product market fit and talking to customers and understanding what that sweet spot is. And the idea of diversifying who you're talking to, it's not that it's a fairly sensible kind of suggestion. So this idea of co-design, I think, kind of a lot of the philosophies and the suggestions sort of fit within your kind of lean startup model and the kinds of tools and techniques that those kinds of people are used to doing. So but it's got to be built in, it's got to be prioritized, and it's there are still challenges associated with it. So have you had a chance to have a look at the book yet or not?
I haven't. No,
you haven't yet. Okay, great. Well, I look forward to receiving feedback on it. As I say, for the time being, it's very open. We made, at one point we were going to publish it and it would be sort of closed off, but we made the decision that the whole thing is this collaborative journey. So comments are welcome, and those will be transparent, and we'll respond to as many of those as we can, and hopefully that will make us better.
Perfect. Thank you. It's good to know.
Great.
Yeah, I've certainly shared it already with quite a few different colleagues that are working on projects that I think it will be relevant and helpful to, and encourage them to try out some of the different frameworks and see how it, how it might help their thinking and building of concepts. And so if I get any feedback on any of that, I'll happily share that with you.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I think well, it's an exciting journey, because I think this, the whole idea of it being a collaborative piece, I think changes everything, because it means that we can reconvene periodically as a community and hear stories from people as people have started implementing some of the suggestions. I mean, some of the things in there people have already implemented, but more and more different organizations taking these things on board. Right, I think it's probably time to close the breakout rooms. So I'm gonna.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem. Oh, they only close in. I've done this many times before.
It gives you a countdown.
Yeah. You're closed. Oh no, it's going to close in 2 minutes.
How did you select the people that you or was it a bit of an open invite to people to get involved in the development of the playbook, Marissa?
Yeah,
How did that come about?
It was a kind of an open invite. I mean, some people have got expertise and they wanted to share their expertise. Other people were just supportive of the cause and were more interested in maybe doing some proofreading and didn't necessarily have content to offer. Other people were interested in doing research. Other people, I'm trying to think, some people were more product people, so they were reviewing it from the perspective of someone who might be a user.
Trying to apply it, yeah.
Trying to apply it. So it's a kind of a real mix. And I think, as I say, I sort of see this as the beginning, not the end in a way. I welcome more contributions from others as it evolves. So leave breakout room. Should we do that?
Yes.
And see who else has come back. Okay, hello everyone. I think the breakout rooms will be closing in about a minute or so. I think there might have been a few technical challenges that some people have faced. Okay, brilliant. Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope wherever you ended up having a good conversation. I think there were some people who had some technical challenges and there were some people who had to leave. So I hope that everyone still managed to have a great conversation. I can see some nods, so that's good. If anyone wants to share anything that came from their conversations, we've got a few more minutes before we close off, so I'm happy to hear some reflections if anyone wants to share. Marcus has got his hand up. I think you need to go off mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We had a fantastic conversation. We went through all the nuts and the bolts, and we were going back and forth with different viewpoints and perspectives. And then we got into a conversation on the nature of large corporations versus smaller corporations. And we were trying to think of what are the different approaches and tactics that can how do you say, win leadership over. So I think we explored a lot of the things that you'd put on the mural and then kind of expanded beyond them to see each other's experiences within their own contexts. Even Christoph shared that he had seen very large organizations and he'd seen the perspective of how leadership sees individuals as numbers, and then we expanded upon that. So yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you. I mean, there's kind of no end of things to talk about in this domain. You can kind of go down so many different avenues. And I guess it's for that reason that I'm keen for us to continue some kind of community around the playbook, because I think there are some really interesting conversations to be had and nice serendipitous meetings with like-minded individuals. Fantastic. Any other reflections? There's no pressure at all. If you don't want to share, that's fine too. We can move on. But very happy to hear if anyone else does want to share. Okay, in which case we shall draw our meeting to a close. So I want to thank everyone who's on the call, everyone who signed up. There was, I think it was probably about 150 odd people who signed up for today's event, which is fantastic. Thank you to the people who have been sharing. Please continue to share. That's what this is all about. Let's get the playbook into as many hands as possible, and let's start, driving some meaningful change. As I say, over the next month or so, the playbook is open, so comments are welcome. Keep those comments coming directly in the playbook. We'll respond to everything. We'll make the changes that we can, and we'll set up another call in the June timeframe. For people who do start engaging, we do have a Slack channel, but we want to keep that to people who are engaged and contributing. So if you make any kind of contribution, then you're in. It's a low bar to entry, but we want the atmosphere to be one of people coming in with the right mindset, who want to support each other and want to help each other. So yeah, all support on that front welcome. And as I say, if you want to be part of the masterclass journey, then if you want to stay on the line, if you've got any questions specifically about that, I'm more than happy to do that. Marcus, you've got your hand up.
I know I have several questions.
Yeah, go for it.
I really just have one. I'm being a bit facetious. How would we request for the Slack? Is there a way that we should be getting in contact or email?
Oh, yeah. So you basically, by engaging, you'll naturally open up a dialogue either through the playbook or email. You can contact on the Diversity website. There's a contact us form thing. So if you contact us from there and tell us, why you want to be involved or what your suggestions are, then boom, you're in.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
No problem at all.
Marissa, real quick, earlier you touched on a little bit of discussions around for targeted things for leaders, right? Mm-hmm. And DEI, is there a separate thread you're planning on starting for that, or a separate chat on that site specifically targeted at leaders to further this, I guess?
Yeah, so I mean, within Diversity, we do a lot of work around leadership development and specifically inclusive leadership development. So we run leadership development programs. We typically work with organizations to to run programs within, for cohorts of leaders within their organization. And once a year, we put on an open inclusive leadership program. It is so that those are the sort of things that we do already. In terms of leaders coming to convene specifically on the playbook, I can see that naturally happening as we develop this community of practice, and we'll kind of see who emerges and the kinds of conversations that come from there. I think the way that I see it working in the future is that our first meeting in June will be on feedback from the review of the playbook and kind of initial reflections and suggestions, but then we'll probably move to a more targeted discussion topic so that we convene around a particular topic. So if there are sort of leadership topics that people want to talk about, then we can do that. Did you have a specific, do you want to know more, I mean, not necessarily now, but about our inclusive leadership programs? Was that the sort of thing you were interested in knowing more? Was it more from your own kind of just,
yeah, more
you
from
as
just
an individual? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, on things to be more mindful of and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, there is as part of our inclusive leadership workshops, we invite people to complete a change canvas, which is one of our visual frameworks specifically about them as an inclusive leader. And there's one of our free resources called the Change Canvas Inclusion Toolkit. It's really downloadable from the Diversity website, but it's a really nice selection of change canvas templates that leaders can use. So there'll be templates in there for you to think about yourself as an inclusive leader, do a bit of self-reflection. There are templates in there for you to use to open up conversations with your team if you have a team to talk about inclusion. So that's a a free resource that might be a nice place to start.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. So yeah, if anyone does have interest in the masterclasses, you can sign up. If it's not for you, but you think it could be the sort of thing that you'd like a private program within your organization or within other organizations, please feel free to recommend us. We're basically here to help. We're here to help organizations on this journey. That's as simple as that. We are at time, and I want to respect all of your time. So I want to send a massive thank you to everyone who has been involved so far, to everyone who will now be involved. Thank you for your time today. Thanks for your contributions, and I wish you all a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marisa.
Ciao.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.